Hey church family, coming to you from my garage here, and that'll make sense in a minute. So this morning I get a call from my wife, Becky, and she says, hey, the car's making a funny sound. I've already looked around, I didn't see anything obvious, so I'm not far from home. I'm just gonna continue coming home, but maybe you could be out in the driveway so when I drive in you can hear it. So she drove in, I'm like, yep, making a funny sound all right, and it sounds like something's rubbing on the brake rotor. And so as she pulled in the garage, I grabbed a few tools and took off the tire and had my head shoved behind the wheel well there. And as I'm taking out the brake caliper bolts, she said, hey, something just fell out. Sure enough, what just fell out? A little tiny rock here, about pea size really. They've been laying a bazillion of these things all around town. If you live here, you know what I'm talking about. They're everywhere on our roads. So one of them just happened to find their way rubbing on my brake caliper, or brake rotor, rather. So here's the deal. I don't even know where it came from. I don't know exactly where it was at. Somewhere where it was making a sound, but I didn't know and I didn't see where it came out of. So why do I tell you this story? Well, as I was thinking about how to introduce a marriage class that we're going to have coming up in January, so a few months away, 19th and 20th, it made me think about tools, and it made me think about the tools that we need for the job. And so this morning, one of the tools I needed was my floor jack, right? So floor jack's a pretty simple tool. You move the handle, it lifts. But it only does that if you have this cranked over and locked. If you don't have this locked and it's loose, then it's never going to lift. It's releasing the pressure. So why do I say that? Well, sometimes in our marriages, it's not about just having the tool. It's about knowing how to use the tool. So communication is one of those, right? So just this morning, as an example, Becky executed perfectly the tool of communication when she called me and said, hey, the car's making a funny sound. Now, I didn't want to hear that, because who wants to hear their cars making a funny sound and potentially got some issues, but it was good that she told me, because that led to investigating that funny sound, which then led to fixing the funny sound, which in this case, thankfully was a very simple fix, just a rock falling out, right? The second thing she executed correctly in the communication was telling me when the rock fell out, because I didn't see it, because from my vantage point where I was at, I couldn't see it, and I was focused on something else. So she had the tool of communication and executed it perfectly. Now, if she would have just told me, hey, the car's making a funny sound, and not told me about this thing falling out, then I would have probably wasted some time and tried to figure out, hey, what is still in here? I didn't see it. If she would have never told me the car's making a funny sound, then we wouldn't even have gotten that far. We wouldn't even have looked. And this little problem, lo and behold, could have become a bigger problem. So I'm sure you see the context of what I'm talking about there. Sometimes little problems can remain little problems if we deal with them immediately. But if we don't know how to deal with them, or they're not communicated about, or we don't have the right tools to deal with them, then they become bigger problems. So in this marriage class we're calling Marriage Matters, it is going to be based on the Prepare and Rich curriculum, which is mostly stemming from an online assessment that each couple does. And so you answer a whole bunch of questions and it tailors this assessment to you. I've been using this for over a decade with literally hundreds of couples, and I find it very valuable. And so we're gonna be using that. And as a group, we will be discussing some of these bigger ideas, but then most of the time you will actually have time with your spouse to discuss the things that are in the assessment, like communication or conflict resolution or stress or finances, intimacy, dating. It goes on, family of origin stuff, family, kids, all that. And it covers a multitude of things. So what makes this really unique is that other than just giving you a really good marriage book to read and then figuring out how to apply that to your marriage, the assessment is applied to your marriage because it's about your marriage because you took it. So with the benefit of a group setting, we also have the benefit of you being able to converse with your spouse, as well as then facilitators like myself, my wife, and others will come around and maybe help guide some of those conversations or give some insights in places or maybe ask clarifying questions that'll help. And what we hope at the end of this is that you not only gain some tools maybe, but also you just learn how to use the tools that you already have in a little bit more of an effective way. All right, so January 19th and 20th, Marriage Matters. It's gonna cost $45. It's over 2 days, Friday and Saturday. We'll feed you dessert on Friday. We'll feed you breakfast and lunch on Saturday, and we'll give childcare for those who need it. So we're trying to make this as easy as possible, but get it on your calendar now and go ahead and register via our website or the app. And if you register after the turn of the year, the cost is going to go up. So do it now, $45 for a few days of meals and time with your spouse where you can be intentional and pour into your marriage. It's always good to do that. So often we let everything else overtake our marriage and it becomes what's on the back burner and we ignore it. So let's carve out some time now, 4 months in advance, and get that on the calendar. I hope to see you there. If you have any questions, reach out.